updates. How many of you attended the work? Good.
Do I still staff?
Sure. Yes. So Tuesday, April 8th was our 20th annual Working Well Conference, and we have conference planning members in the room. We have vendors in the room. It was a very successful day. I am working on wrapping up the conference. There will be something in the newsletter that goes out in May, second day in May, but it was very successful. We are already planning 20. So just working on finalizing the date, and then that will be out, so you'll calendars. Number 2, update. May is Bike Month. So you read my shirt. We want to make every month Bike Month, but May is the big month, and so there is a poster on the back. You can scan it. It's going to go to our website. There's a Bike to Work Challenge. There's a Bike Anywhere Day. There's a Bike Bash. There are things being added to the website as they're being finalized. Bike to Happy Hour is returning this year. Bike breakfast stations are being added. So just check the website, continue to check Facebook, get out with your bike. Hopefully good one, all of May. And before Bike Month, we have another big event, and that is this Sunday, Tour to Wichita. With Bike Walk Wichita and Great Plains Diabetes. So lots of good things going on, lots of opportunities to get out and be physically active. If you remember last summer, we did a park tour, spotlights on city parks. And this summer, I'm contemplating doing farm. And I'd like to get some coalitions on how we want that to look. So if you're interested in providing feedback for that, just email me and let me know. I'll be reaching out, like I said, and asking for volunteers and getting that planned. So just wanted to plant that seed. If you're interested, please. Okay, so today is Earth Day. Happy Earth Day. I should have put that on the agenda. I should have led with that. We're excited to have our partners from the city of Wichita, Ethan and Lizette, and I'm going to let them share all of their wonderful information.
Great. Thank you, Shelly. My name is Ethan Kershaw. I'm the Sustainability and Resiliency Coordinator for the City of Wichita. I work in the Department of Public Works and Utilities, and we wanted to partner with Health and Wellness Coalition today and share some information and ideas on how health and environment are very interconnected. Research has shown that public health is an issue that a lot of people care about. It's the thing that everybody connects with when we talk about the environment. People worry about clean air, clean water. And I want to kind of focus in on Wichita and how health and environment interplay in our city. To start off, I'm going to show a video from the CDC, how the environment affects our health.
Over the past few years, you've probably seen severe weather events. Maybe you've even experienced natural disasters like hurricanes, wildfires, or snowstorms. Because our planet's climate, weather, is changing, severe weather is happening more often, and temperatures are rising in many places around the world. Climate change is just one way that our environment affects our health. The air we breathe, we eat, water we drink, and the places where we live, work, and play all have an impact on our health. For example, some people live, work, go to school in older buildings that have lead paint. Lead is a substance that can cause serious health problems, especially for young children. Poor air quality is another way the environment can affect our health. When there's pollution in the air, it's especially dangerous for people with asthma. The environment affects our health in many other ways, like unsafe food and water, mold, radon, and carbon monoxide poisoning. The good news is, there are simple steps you can take. You can learn more about the environmental health of your community by visiting CDC's Environmental Public Health Tracking Network. View local, timely data and information on topics like air quality, drinking water, extreme heat, radon, and more. Use tools designed to help communities prepare for and respond to environmental health threats like extreme heat events. For the latest CDC environmental health news, see CDC's Environmental Health Next. CDC's National Center for Environmental Health offers tools and information to help you protect yourself from everyday environmental health risks. You can find resources like asthma action plans, tips on preventing lead poisoning, emergency plans to prepare for natural disasters, and learn more about how the environment affects our health and how you can stay safe and healthy at www.cdc.gov/nceh/EHSP.
Oh, darn, I spoiled one. All right, I wanted to ask audience involvement. So to you all, what does a healthy Wichita look like? And feel free to shout it out. Great answer. Yeah, you took the easy one. What else comes to mind?
Bike paths for biking.
Bike paths, nutritious food, something else I think of. Tree canopy. I would say also access to health resources, mental, physical, trees. We talked about that. Clean air, clean drinking water. So those are all going to be some important things we're going to talk about. What are some environmental factors impacting human health? And they do overlap with the previous slide a little bit, if that's a hint.
Right, so weather
Yes.
events that are becoming more for sure.
Yeah. Anything else in mind? Air quality.
I was going to say water.
Yeah.
We've had our water tested several times. We can't use it on our garden because it's
Yeah. Water quality, air quality, temperature and weather. I would say proximity to green spaces, access to tree canopy, animals and disease factors. And also I want to talk about later today, I'll explain this concept a little more, the built environment, and how that impacts human health. But there's a lot more. Talking more about physical and mental health and the links between our health and the environment around us. There's been a lot of different research done, and more of that has come up recently. Time in nature has been linked to things like improved cognitive function, brain activity, blood pressure, mental health, physical activity, and sleep. There's more research needed on especially the links between urban planning and public health, but I would say the link to physical activity is pretty clear, looking at bike paths, making sure that people can get places without a car if they choose to do so, and that can encourage physical activity. And there's been recent interest in the psychological impacts of environmental exposures like air pollution from industry traffic and fires. And I've got some of this research compiled, so you can always reach out to me after if you're interested in kind of seeing where some of that information came from. But I think talking about air pollution is a good segue into our first speaker on air quality. Lisette Ortega is going to talk more about this.
Hi, as Ethan mentioned, my name is Lisette Ortega, and I'm the Senior Environmental Specialist for the city. What this means is I focus primarily on air quality, and this is thanks to a grant I received from the EPA and then city funds as well, so my position does have to get approved every year. But luckily, I am lucky enough to have a great team that I work with, and we work in a lot of different aspects of different sustainability issues that affect the city, so you'll be hearing a little bit more about those. But in this presentation, specifically for my part, I do want to focus on kind of my main portion of my job, which is air quality. So one of the main things that I monitor is ozone. So I'm going to talk a little about how ozone's created and then kind of how we're monitoring it and what our standards are. So I'll get into that, but I'll start off with what ozone is. You've probably heard of like, oh, the ozone up in the atmosphere and how it's good. You know, we don't want a hole in the ozone. Well, when I talk about ozone, it is actually the bad ozone, which is kind of ground level ozone that is sticking here due to, you know, a few different factors, which I will also talk about. But there is two different types of ozone, as I mentioned. There is stratosphere ozone, which is the good one that helps protect us from UV rays. And then there is ground level or bad ozone that is due to air pollution that is harmful for us to breathe into, which is kind of what I'm going to focus on. So ozone is actually created when nitrogen oxide and volatile organic compounds, or VOCs, are mixed in the presence of sunlight and ozone is formed. So ozone, it's really important for it to have sunlight or heat, which is why we have, usually you hear more about worsening air quality kind of during the summer, because that's when the heat can trap it kind of closer here to us on the ground level. So you'll hear more about ozone alerts, especially as we start to get into that kind of hotter weather. So I actually monitor it for Wichita and the surrounding MSA, which is the Metropolitan Statistical Area, which includes Sedgwick County, Sumner County, Harvey County, and Sedgwick County. Well, did I say Sedgwick County twice? I'm missing one, so I'll figure it out. But we generate both. So here in the city, us as people, inhabitants, as industry, we actually create both NOx and VOC emissions due to our industry and just our general way of life, which I will kind of get into that as well, and maybe what we can do to mitigate our personal emissions as well. So as I spoke about it, I get funding thankfully from the EPA, and this is all through the Clean Air Act, but they do set standards on Wichita. So part of my position is to be able to make sure that we're staying under those standards and that we're not exceeding those, because there are economic factors or economic consequences for exceeding those. So the way it's measured is in parts per billion. That's the most common way to say it. So 70 parts per billion, we try to stay under that. The way they measure it is a little complicated, so I'm going to walk you guys through it. It's a little technical, so I always get it mixed up when I'm explaining it. But the measure is determined by the fourth highest daily maximum 8-hour average across 3 Okay, a lot of words. What that means is every day we get numbers on the hour about what our air quality is on that day, on any given day, about ozone. So throughout an 8-hour time span, we take the average of that, and we do that every day throughout the ozone season, which runs from March 1st to October 31st. So in that given time frame, we take the fourth highest from that year, and then we average it for the 3 years, and that gives us a 3-year rolling average, and that's the number the EPA takes and uses. For reference, last year we had a fourth highest average just in the 2024 year of 66 parts per billion, and the year before was 67. So we're doing a little bit better, but our rolling average stayed the same at 66 parts per billion. So we're still within compliance, which is great, of the national ambient air quality standards. But that's just kind of what it means when we say if we're in attainment or not in attainment of our air quality standards in any given year. And so as I mentioned, we get air quality updates every hour. And so the way this is monitored is we have 3 stations that I get information from, and as you can see, they're dotted here, and those are the counties that are monitored. We not only get ozone, that's the one I primarily talk about because that's the one we have a standard for, but we also get information for PM10 and PM2.5, which means particulate matter. So that's a big one that's kind of been coming up here in the past couple weeks. So what particulate matter is different type. It's a different type of air quality, and so the PM10 is a little bit bigger. This is a human hair, so that's the size. The blue one is the size of PM10 in relation to human hair, and then the pink reddish one is 2.5 compared to the size of a human hair. So high levels of both PM2.5 and PM10 in the air can be harmful to your health, especially both long and short-term effects in the same way that ozone can. And they have similar sources like vehicle emissions, industrial processes, and smoke that can cause them. And I do want to hone in a little bit there on smoke, because if you guys remember a couple weeks ago, we had a pretty bad kind of like smoke coming into the city. It was like really grainy, and so we'll talk about that in a second. But Wichita is not the only one in the state who monitors or who has air quality monitors run by KDHE. Like I mentioned, we have those 3, but we have monitors all over the state. And the way we can access that data is you can go to airnow.gov. That will give you the real-time data, and they usually update it about every hour. And so once you put in your zip code, so you can look at any zip code in the state or in other states as well. And so this is kind of what will come up. I pulled this on April 15th at 11 a.m. So on that given morning, you can see Wichita is a little bit in the yellow, a lot of green, but you can see in some metropolitan area here, also a little bit in the yellow. And it's really nice because it'll also break it down from PM 2.5, 10, and then ozone as well. And so you might be asking yourself, What do these colors mean? You know, obviously we know green is good, yellow's not so great, but there are a few other colors that are also included in this. So green is good. That's what we want. We want good air quality. We would like to see those across all three types of air pollutants. But we also have yellow, which is moderate, and it usually means air quality is acceptable. However, for some people, particularly those who are unusually sensitive to air pollution, might be affected by this type of air quality. And then we have orange. Once we get to orange, that's where I start putting out alerts, just because that is unhealthy for specifically sensitive groups. So if you follow the city's Facebook page, you might see an alert go out every once in a while for both particulate matter and for ozone. So usually that's kind of what I call the threshold of, okay, I think this is a public safety, you know, people need to know about it in case they haven't been looking at the air quality that day. There's also red, purple, and maroon, so these are worse. So once we get to red, it's just unhealthy for everybody, whether or not you're sensitive or have any respiratory issues. So as I talked about a little bit earlier, when we had that really bad kind of like smoky, hazy very day, like Friday a couple weeks ago, or like a month ago now, this is what the air quality that day looked like. So it was pretty bad. We were getting some of it pulled in from Oklahoma, and it was pushing up. We just had wildfires going on. I think some of it blew up from West Texas. So my job is basically to monitor this. I monitor it usually a few times a day, depending on how it is in the morning, and just continuously monitor it. This one was a little weird because it came up in the afternoon, kind of out of nowhere. The air quality in the morning was good. But this is why I continually monitor it throughout the day, and I don't just say, oh, in the morning it's good, we're just gonna not look at it the rest of the day. But this gives you kind of a visual idea of how bad it can really get sometimes, and sometimes out of nowhere. And I promised Ethan I'd give him photo credits. This is the pictures he was taking on that day outside his apartment. So as you can see, sometimes air quality is going to be a very visual representation. You can see it. And that's why I think PM 2.5 has been coming up more, because you can see it. You know, everyone talks about it, what's going on. Whereas ozone is not always that visible. And sometimes you're just not going to be able to see it. It doesn't mean it's a good air quality day regardless. So talked about a little bit about the different types of air pollutants, but then how are we creating them? You know, I talked about the mix of NOx and VOCs, and the one I really want to hone into is automobiles and trucks. A few of you guys may have heard last year, I believe, Ethan did a greenhouse gas emissions inventory for the city that tracked both our city operations and then the operations of just everyone else, of what, you know, people in the city are doing. And one of the biggest sources of emissions was actually our transportation sector, so cars. So I know we talked a little bit about, you know, there are quite a few different sectors of things that lead to it. So obviously industry is definitely one of those. But one of the biggest things that we can do individually to try and reduce our emissions is going to be, you know, how we're transporting ourselves and other people. And I'll get a little bit more into that as well. But I do want to talk about the health impacts of poor air quality. So as you guys heard on that video, there, you know, especially people with respiratory issues are at risk. Older people, elderly, pregnant women, they're all at risk. And it doesn't matter if it's ozone or fine particulates, which is that particulate matter. They both have similar, you know, symptoms and health issues that they can cause. So it's just really important to be cognizant of both. There's been studies about both short and long-term issues within specific communities of those long-term effects and short-term effects of the being in poor air quality or in areas with poor air quality. So a little bit about what you can do. So one of the things I always like to recommend to people, whether or not it's a good or bad ozone day or air quality day, is postponing fueling. So in case you guys weren't aware, during the summer, a lot of our fuel evaporates because it's so hot. So as you're putting it into your vehicle, it just kind of starts evaporating. So if you actually fuel maybe in the morning before work when it's a little cooler, or in the evening when it's cooled down a little bit, that is less that's evaporating, less emissions, and more of it actually going into your vehicle. So not only does it help out with your costs a little bit, but it also helps reduce your emissions. If it's a bad ozone day or air quality day, I recommend reschedule errands. On that specific day, I remember I was going to go out to dinner, and I walked outside and I was like, you know what? I don't like the grit that's getting to my teeth. I'm just going to, you know, eat in that day. So if you can, just be cognizant of what the air quality is and say, hey, maybe, you know, I'm a susceptible group. Maybe I should just kind of stay indoors today if I can. Same with lawn work. So even our lawnmowers do create emissions, so it would help if we, decrease what we're doing on certain days, and if you can postpone it for your own health, that's also a great idea. Avoid using paints, varnishes, and solvents in the heat of the day. Limit idling. So for the city, we actually have a idling policy, so all of our city employees do have to take a training that I created about idling. So we have no idling, meaning that they shouldn't be, just sitting in their car on their phone listening to music while the car is on. But that's just a good thing for all of us to take into consideration too. When we're doing things, sometimes, I'm guilty of this too. I get home, I sit in my driveway, and I kind of just, looking at my phone, finishing up. But, if you can, try and turn off your car, maybe roll down your windows, and then also reduces or increases your gas mileage too, so you're not wasting your gas as well. And then sign up for ozone alerts. On our Be Air Aware page, which is beairaware.org, if I remember correctly, or the Wichita Sustainability page, you can sign up for ozone alerts. So whenever we do have a high ozone day, I will send out an email so you can just kind of be aware of those as well. And then I always recommend when you can, if you can carpool, maybe if you live close to somebody else that you work with, might be a really good idea to say, hey, maybe one day I'll drive or you drive. And that's just at least one less car on the road, and it reduces traffic for all of us too. And then if you can, if you live near a bus stop, I know sometimes it's a little bit harder, but if you can ride the bus, ride your bicycle. It's going to be bike month here in a bit. So if we can, ride our bike or walk, it'll be better for our health as well. And then we do have ozone action plans. So if your organization doesn't have an ozone action plan and would like to create one, you can reach out to me. So the city, actually, each department has an ozone action plan, and there are certain things they do every day when I call, well, not every day, on the days when I call an ozone, high ozone alert. So I like to use the Department of Transit Department as an example. So on high ozone days, actually, you get to ride the bus for free. So we try and encourage people, to use the bus, reduce the amount of cars on the road, that kind of a thing. So that's just kind of one of the things that our departments are able to do. And then just as a reminder, I talked a little bit about the transportation sector and what we can do and how that's one of the biggest emitters. Obviously, just want to bring again the Bike Month. I work with Shelly and with Bike Walk Wichita to put together Bike Month. And so just remember there are events throughout May. There's a Bike to Work Challenge, a Bike to Happy Hour, which is my personal favorite. And you get to meet up with a bunch of cyclists and do a nice little social thing. So I always think that's great. You get out, you get active, and reduce your emissions as well. And then in October, I work with Shelly for the Walktober event, which is a great event to also be able to get out and be active, and then also reduce your emissions. And that is all I have. Do we have any questions? Yes.
So, I'm just curious, during the time frame of 2019 to 2022, when the entire world was shut down, was there a real change in our atmosphere? Because transportation was virtually shut down.
Yeah, I wouldn't know to tell you about the Earth's atmosphere in general. I'm not sure. I would imagine there would be, better air quality throughout that year. I will say I started this position in 2023, so I don't know that was particularly looking at different types of air quality during those years. I would imagine it did help because I know there was, a lot less cars on the road, a lot less airplanes, and I know shipments were reduced as well. So I would imagine it did help out those few years. Yes.
Is there any kind of cooperation, I guess you'd say, about the roads right now? I mean, it seems to me like I've been on many highways idling for a lot of time here in the last week or two. And is there some way that we can find a better alternative? Which road is, I mean, I hear early in the morning, I heard eastbound Kellogg, stay off of it. It's, it's down to one lane. And I came back the other direction at 10 o'clock today and it was still like that. So.
Honestly, the best response I have for that is using or expanding our different modes of transportation. If we have a robust, multimodal system that includes buses or other types of transit, it really helps get those cars off the road as well. Reduces the traffic for people who aren't able to take the bus or, in the future, if we can have some kind of train or something. Bike lanes, I know a lot of people don't love bike lanes, but it also helps. I like to cycle a lot, and so it makes me feel safer to have a separate lane, so that's another car off the road. So just having other modes that are outside of vehicles to give people those options. I think that's kind of the best way I can do it, because usually expanding highways, which some people suggest, can make traffic worse, actually.
Do you know off the top of your head how many electric vehicles the city has right now?
City, for us, we have 2 in our motor pool. They're kind of like a pilot system to see kind of how they're working out, and if they work for the type of operations we're doing. And then in the city in general.
Oh, Wampo's got that data.
Yeah, I was trying to remember the number that Wampo gave and how many cars were registered, but I can't remember.
I can look at Wampo.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you.
So I'm learning a lot. This is excellent. Thank you.
Yep.
I don't know if it's just because this meeting was coming up, but I've noticed lately it's like it's raining dust or raining dirt. Like I was standing outside on Saturday and it started to sprinkle and then my jacket.
Oh, yeah.
The cars
yeah.
covered.
Yeah. Is this a new thing or am I just noticing it or what?
Pollen?
So yeah, I think it can be a few mixtures of things. I do also know right now we're in the burning season for the Flint Hills, and they're, especially with, I think wildfires have been continually to increase every year from what I've noticed. And then recently we got a lot of wildfires and a lot of smoke from Oklahoma City. So I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of that is kind of like blowing in, and that's kind of what we're noticing more. Okay, well, thank you.
All right, great job. That was our first bullet on this lovely slide. Next, we're going to get into water quality. So I've got a few notes I want to share, and then we'll have someone else from our Public Works and Utilities Department speak a little more on some programs we're doing. But generally, water quality falls under our Environmental Health Division. We actually got a Wichita Area Treatment Education Remediation Center, Water Center, started back in 2003. It was constructed to help address some different groundwater pollution that had occurred decades ago from a couple different industrial sources. So there was one under Gilbert and Mosley. That project remediation started back in 1991. It was actually under threat of being a EPA Superfund site, but the city worked hard to address it and work with KDHE and the EPA to avoid that, because it would have been disastrous for business, especially downtown. And we've been working to clean that site up ever since. Similar site, North Industrial Corridor, 29th and Meade. That was identified in 1996, started cleanup. Similar program, but we built from that effort for Gilbert and Mosley and kind of continued that. So both of those are being treated at the Water Center today. And recently a separate agreement was approved by the City Council to contribute funds to address health concerns for residents at 29th and Grove. So that's a joint city, county, state, and Kansas Health Foundation effort. They're all putting money into that to help pay for testing and some other programs we can do to help address those health concerns that people have about groundwater pollution. Another big thing the city does is drinking water. Provide water to over 500,000 residents and 11 wholesale customers of the surrounding communities. It's a vital resource for everyone in Kansas and especially for us. And currently we're sourcing about 55% to 60% from Cheney Reservoir out west, and then the rest is coming from the Equus beds. That's at our old treatment plant. This is a picture of the new one. We'll be able to adjust those percentages more. That'll help us be more resilient to drought conditions like we're in right now, and help us conserve water where we need to. So talking about a drought, that's the conditions we're experiencing right now. This is actually from last year. It's lower than this now. I don't have an updated picture, but it's becoming a more frequent hazard in Kansas. Across the state, people have started to recognize the importance of water. There's a new state water office, and there's funding going towards that from the state legislature, because it's just such an important resource to ensure we have access to. Right now, Cheney is under 57% full, and that's over 8 feet below normal. So keep in mind, we're still in stage 2, and we've got a few different programs we're doing to help people conserve water and to help save on their water bills, and I'm going to let Teresa Crosby talk on that next.
Good afternoon, all. Like you said, I'm Teresa Crosby. I'm actually in the water and sewer building, so don't get mad at me. One of the programs that we have is our water bill, that's the rate relief program. We typically started in October. We went ahead and started it in March 1st this year, and it runs through the end of the year. It's called the rate relief because every year our rates are evaluated, and just about every year they go up. This is a program that's put in place, and it gives a $50 credit on residential water customers that meet the qualifications. the applications are getting accepted through the end of the year or until funds are exhausted. I think we had funds that went through all the way to the end of the year last year. We've been able to do it a couple of times, a couple of years rather, and we started early in April 2 years ago, and we actually ended up with less people that applied than what we did when we started in October. We decided we'd try it again this year, and we shot for March 1st. And some of the qualifications are you have to be a residential water customer, and you have to be approved through LEAP, which is a program DCF offers. We work closely with DCF and even attend their events so that customers can get this. It's the low income energy assistance program. They contact me and they say, okay, this is where we're going to be. Can you meet us there? We extended last year and we went to the community centers. We were at Atwater, we were here at Evergreen, and we were at Colvin, so that we could be in the public to do some outreach to help answer questions to our customers and provide them as much information as possible. We're gladly giving away the $50 credit if we can. A lot of our citizens can use it. So by all means, if you know someone that could potentially apply for it, let them know it's out there. It's on our website. We have the QR code. Scan it, fill out the application. We need that and your 2025 LEAP approval, and you'll get a $50 credit on your water bill. You can call our call center at the 265-1300 if you want a paper copy of it, or you can come to City Hall and talk to my lovely front desk ladies that are more than happy to help you out with those applications, provide you the information, and look over the account. The account, we typically like it to have your name on the account or you be listed as a secondary for it for the LEAP approvals. Another program that we offer are our rebates. And you guys have probably heard about this. We've done it a couple years in a row. It's for energy efficient items, and you can get credits put on your water bill based on purchasing these qualifying items. You guys have any questions about that so far? None? Okay. For the program, yes, they have to be purchased in 2025, its current year. It runs to the end of the year. So 2024 ended December 31st. This year it ends December 31st of 2025. And you have a list of all the available devices at the SaveWichitaWater.com. If you're in question about it, as long as you purchased it in 2025, you can provide a receipt that states that. You could qualify for our rebates based on the device itself. $100 for the hose and faucet irrigation controllers, $100 for the smart irrigation controllers, so on and so forth. Those are all listed on our website as well, so you can look at it. You can also apply online with a clear image of your receipt. We get some that we can't tell exactly what it is, and in those regards, you might get an email back that says that you've been denied. You can always apply again with the same information with a more clearer picture so that we can actually get the credit applied. And I do believe we'll go up to $500 on your account. So it does end up helping a lot of people, especially if you buy a $90 toilet, we're reimbursing you the $90 on your water bill. So basically you got a free toilet because it took off of your water bill for you. Any questions about rebates? Like I said, more information can be found on our website. You're more than welcome to call the 265-1300, our call center number as well, and it can provide you information. Right now, I don't think we've ever done it in the years past. We have free shower heads and aerators that you can pick up. There's some here at Evergreen. They're at the libraries or at their community health center. Our way to help promote it, it does not cost anything. You just have to be a resident in Wichita, being billed from Wichita Water, so that we can provide it to you free of charge. Here it is, take it home, utilize it. We've actually seen an increase in our walk-in customers at City Hall because of this. They are coming in specifically for their free shower heads and their aerators. So they're available until we run out. So if you all know anybody that could utilize one, by all means, send them our way.
Per household, can you do it?
We have one per household right now, one shower head, one aerator. Yeah, it's down at the very bottom of the slide. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Kind of weird question. The apartment complex that I'm at, the water bill comes to the apartment complex and then they subdivide it. Are those people still going to be eligible for?
Not that I'm aware of. We're not guessing and checking everything that's on there. It's an individual water bill is the way that we're looking at it. We have several apartment complexes that have one bill that gets sent and then they split it up accordingly to their residents. So it would be
So
on
you
the,
get an email.
yeah. Yeah. So unfortunately, if you have a water bill, you'll get it, but if you don't, then if you come in and just say, I want the free, we're not gonna check you on it, but. Any other questions? No? Okay. If you all do have any questions, please feel free to reach out to the call center, 265-1300. Come by City Hall, see my front desk ladies, tell them, hey, tell Teresa I said hi, and they'll let me know. They're pretty chatty and they're pretty family too, so come on up. Thank you.
Okay, we are the Health and Wellness Coalition, so I think a standing round of applause is necessary between the meetings. Yes, this is great information. Thank you. Okay. Join in on the next one if you're interested. Go, take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Teresa. All right, next up, we're going to talk some more about temperature. In Wichita, we experience some extreme heat conditions in the summer, especially. Part of this is due to the urban heat island effect. We don't have a great stand for it, but we've got a little map here, and we can show after the presentations are done, kind of mapping out different hotspots in Wichita. So especially downtown, a lot of paved surfaces, dark surfaces do not reflect sunlight very well and instead absorb that heat. That's what causes this. So this is a map you can look at as well. This shows all heat risks. So that dark purple area you can see, especially central Wichita and south central Wichita, are some of the highest vulnerability areas and the highest exposure to extreme heat in the summer. And so part of that overlaps with some of our tree canopy work, which I'll talk about a little more. And this also contributes to higher nighttime temperatures in the area. And that's when it can get pretty dangerous for people who don't have somewhere to go at night, especially. Because as it stays hotter overnight, there's no chance for your body to cool down. That's what puts people at higher health risks. So we'll see more cases of hospital visits in the summer due to that as well. And it's just higher risk to people without access to consistent air conditioning and cooling. And this impact is often undercounted by health agencies. This is often a contributing factor rather than maybe a main cause as listed currently. So there's still some data gaps as well. This is a map from the CDC, NOAA, a few other agencies they put together. It's a heat risk map. They'll update it and they do a forecast out for the week. This is pulled from last week. So this was the really hot day last week. I think it got up to 90. Shows different levels of heat risk for areas, and it's based upon how unusual that temperature is for that time of year, how long the high temperatures are going to stay, the duration of it, and generally just helps you stay informed on the risk to you and especially outdoor workers, other people who have to spend a lot of time outside. During the summer, you'll see a lot of orange and red conditions for us, especially on those days where it doesn't get below 70 at night. Pretty rare to see anything magenta on this map, but it's a good resource if you want to stay updated on the heat risk or if you know people that spend a lot of time outside in the summer. As I kind of mentioned before, the tree canopy also plays a major part in addressing heat. So we've done a past study on our urban tree canopy, and we worked with NASA to do that. Some benefits of that tree canopy include cooler temperatures, cleaner air, and generally mental health benefits for being able to spend more time out in nature. This map shows our current percentage coverage for our tree canopy. You can see out east there's higher tree canopy coverage, and then downtown and south central, those white areas have less than 10% tree canopy cover. As a city, we're striving to increase that percentage, especially in those areas that have less. So we've got some different census tracts. You can kind of see which ones that would be based on this map as well, that we're targeting for tree plantings, especially once we're out of drought conditions, and we can do a lot more of those plantings. As I mentioned before, I also wanted to talk a little bit about the built environment. There's a lot of different things that go into this, but I'm going to try to bring up some topics that pertain to Wichita and the Health and Wellness Coalition. So food deserts are a big one. They've been talked about a lot in recent years. Active transportation, we've talked about, Bike Month. And generally how we build our cities and how we connect with other people in those built environments. Talking about local food access, I mean, food deserts, if you're not familiar, are areas with limited access to healthy and affordable food. In Wichita, we've got some key areas. This is an older study, but it's a good map still. Those little checkmark dots are the grocery store locations, and then the brownish orange areas are considered food deserts in Wichita. So often there are plenty of unhealthy options available instead of those healthy options that we're hoping to find fresh, affordable food. So you'll see some of those grocery stores are on the edges or near food desert areas. But there's a general lack of access to those spaces as well. Maybe it's harder to get there by foot or by bike. There's a lot of other factors that go into that as well. And there's a lot of community efforts going on right now to address this problem. So the city of Wichita's got their Healthy Corner Store Initiative program that just kicked off. It's using some ARPA funding, and it's going to be doing a lot of work and trying to bring grocery stores in directly to some of these food desert areas. The Health and Wellness Coalition has done a lot of work. There's a workshop, I think last week I went to, that talked about a lot of this, providing more food access and kind of addressing that problem. And ICT Food Circle is a new resource I learned about recently from K-State Extension Office. It's highlighting some local food providers, and they've tried to put together a one-stop shop for that information. Talking about active transportation and multimodal transportation. Making sure we have an accessible and safe transportation network is very important. I mean, everybody's got places to go, places they want to go see. And it's important to include multiple options for how we're going to get from one place to another, so that you can make those choices yourself. So that can include driving, biking, walking, public transit, and more. We've got a few key plans for the city. So the bicycle plan and the Wichita Transit Network plan are very key to our transportation efforts. Those help set a long-term vision, and they were both completed recently, new draft updates of them, to help address kind of that long-term planning vision of how people are going to get around the city. Another thing I want to highlight the city's been doing, this is a grant that's been a couple years in the making, but a reconnecting community study that we're doing on the area around the 21st Street corridor. It's currently divided by railroads and I-135, and this is a quote from the grant application. So due to frequent at-grade train movements crossing the 21st Street corridor, residents often wait up to 90 minutes at railroad crossings, leading residents to avoid the connection point in the area altogether. So that has made it hard for residents to get east to west in that area. It's affected businesses, people living there, and it generally leads to a less connected community. And so we wanted to address that. So we got $1 million from the federal government to help with that, and another $300,000 from the city is putting in to help match that funding. And outreach is going to start later this year on this project. The city council has approved that money to be spent now, so that work's going to start soon. And I wanted to highlight that area. So that red circle up there is kind of roughly the study area. The smaller red circle is where we're at, so we're very close, and generally would be considered part of it as well. And the rest of this map is, at least as of last summer, the transit network. Just to give you a better idea, if you've never looked at it, wanted to take a moment to kind of look at this, and you'll note that all the routes are leading generally from our transit hub. We're building a new one. Actually, this is from the old transit hub. We're going across the river to Delano. There's going to be a new transit multimodal hub there, right next to the baseball stadium. And so that's going to lead to some shifts in these routes. Generally, they're going to be covering the same areas, but that transit redesign study I mentioned looked at some inefficiencies that were there. They're making some adjustments and trying to get people to places like grocery stores, places like work, where they need to go, especially for people who are relying on our transit system. Something else, and this relates back to our built environment, planning and zoning. Not the most fun topic, but it's important to be thinking about these questions and how we answer them. You know, where can we be building new homes and apartments? Because a lot of people need housing. That's a priority in this community. What can be built close to housing? Are we allowing just one area for homes, one area for work, or are we allowing some of those mixed use areas? Not often exciting, but it's a very impactful field, and it's important to making a walkable, active, and connected Wichita. There's an older plan from a couple years ago. It's called Places for People. They did a lot of research on this topic, especially for Wichita. They were focused there and seeing what different connections we could be building. So if you're interested, I recommend checking that out and some other efforts in the local community. And generally building better community connections. So there's a couple great events that are already happening that I think are great examples of what a walkable and connected community looks like. So Open Streets, this is a picture from Open Streets on Douglas a couple years ago. And there's, I think, one next weekend in May at Nomar, really close here on 21st Street. So those Open Streets events are a great example on showing people what does the street look like if there weren't cars on it? What if people could just walk and bike and utilize it freely without cars and that fear of maybe safety? Our farmers markets, our community gardens, and generally libraries and neighborhood resource centers are all great places and examples of what a connected community can look like, and kind of combining these different elements of local food access, information access, and being able to get to places on foot, on bike, and by driving if need be as well. So covered a lot of different things. I wanted to save some time for questions, and then we'll transition to another activity we promised afterwards. Yeah.
Super tacky. I missed the first portion. Could I get a copy of this?
Yes, and actually we'll have a recording of this if it all recorded well. We'll share that online.
Yeah. Thank you.
So I just want to give a shout out to Ethan and Lizette and their team. So I talk about the Food and Farm Council a lot since you come to these meetings. So they reviewed the food system master plan, and I wish I knew the number. It was every goal, I want to say like 25 overlapping activities
That's quite a few.
between the food system master plan and the work that they're leading with the Sustainability Initiative Board. And then we've talked a lot about the bike ped board. There are lots of groups that are working on these issues in the city. And so if you have suggestions or comments or recommendations or want to somehow help, I don't know, I'm hoping that this is in charging you all. I learned a lot, and it's unfortunate about the heat map and the tree canopy and everything, so I just want us all to do better and share what we learned. So, other questions?
The work that's going to be done, the railroad tracks, 21st and Broadway, you said that the first thing that you're going to do is some kind of campaign to get feedback from the community.
Yeah, I think that's step one of it, because it's just a planning study for now. It's hoping to find the answer to those issues, and step one will be getting that community engagement and feedback. I believe we're working with, I don't know who the contractor we're going to work with is, but we're going to go out for community feedback through them.
And when you say go out, that means like you maybe advertise on the news or something, or where
Usually it's public events, town hall style formats, you know, allowing people to come in, share their comments, maybe lead that discussion in directions, but generally taking public feedback in person at times when people are available. Yeah, and if you want to learn more about any of this stuff we've covered, a lot of this can be found on our sustainability page, wichita.gov/sustainability. That's got a lot of information, and it leads to a lot of our community resources pages, air quality, a couple different topics as well related to that. Shelly, I think I'll let you do some closing stuff, and then I'll highlight the nature walk after that.
Fantastic. Okay, so I'm going to cruise through these. So hopefully as many of you can go on our nature walk as possible. So let's give one more round of applause to the city of Wichita. These are some well-connected people in the room, and my call to action from every meeting is that you don't keep all this information. Go back and you tell everybody at your work site, everybody that you interact with. So that's the call to action. Why we do what we do, I just wanted to point this out. I got this last week at a conference. So it is the Kansas Health Institute County Health Rankings and Roadmaps. And so information for Sedgwick County, if you're not familiar with this, and if you need or want data, let me know. I'm happy to get this information to you. But they have a new model of health that talks about population health and well-being, community conditions, societal rules added to this new model. So it's very interesting. Let me know if you're interested in more. And then we end with completely random and useless facts, which I stole from Parkrun, even though I still get the Parkrun email, and I don't think that they're doing that anymore, but that's okay. It lives on with the Health and Wellness Coalition. So we have prizes, and the first prize, I'm curious, who has a guess of how many new people were added to the Health and Wellness Coalition distribution news just by attending the work? Let me throw out a number to start.
75.
90? That's very close. One more number.
I was saying 80. She was close to 90.
90. Okay, she's going in the right direction. It is 111. We can stay here forever. Yes, 111 new people. So that's attendees, sponsored vendors, all that good stuff. Okay, guess how many? There were 120 unique organizations that attended the conference, and so we asked for full-time employees so we can kind of get an idea of the reach of the conference. Somebody throw out a number just to get us started. What do you think the reach was of the conference? Way higher. Way higher. Like full-time employees of of these organizations attending?
1,200.
We're gonna start off at 20,000. It's higher than that. Somebody else give me a number.
30,000?
30,000, you said that. Okay, she's getting a fidget cube and a tic-tac-toe. It was like 35,000. And so that's because we firmly believe that everybody learned something new at the conference, they're gonna take it back to their work site and tell everybody that they know, and it's gonna make great changes and impacts. So those are your useless facts. And the May meeting, it's same date, fourth Tuesday, location to be determined, so check the newsletter. It'll be on the meeting invite if you're on that. But it's gonna be cool and fun, just like all the rest of our coalition meetings, so we'll want you to join us.
Yeah, I've got a few more events happening as well. So on April 28th, we're doing another water conservation educational event. Actually, Andrew Van Tassel sitting at that table there. He's going to be presenting along with someone from K-State Extension Office on some things you can do at home to help reduce your water usage, programs the city is doing, and some advice on gardening, especially outdoor gardening and water conservation in that field. We've got an Earth Day event happening this weekend, organized by some members of our Sustainability Integration Board at Clap Park, 1 to 4 p.m. on the 26th. And then the next Sustainability Integration Board meeting, if you're curious and want to learn a little more, is happening next month on May 28th. Those are at the Advanced Learning Library, or you can attend virtually via Zoom every fourth Wednesday of the month, 6:15 to 7:45 p.m. And then giving everybody a few ideas to think about while there's a little walk and talk discussion, nature walk ending event, if you want to take part in that. Think about what's different between walking, driving, biking. You know, how does it feel differently when you're doing those things? What are you noticing about the landscape around you? What areas are most enjoyable to walk through? Where could you safely walk or bike to from your home, if there's anywhere? Sometimes people live a little further out from, other developments or parks, and it's harder to get around on foot. And what are any new ideas you had today, and any future research you want to do on any of these topics we've talked about? Since it's Earth Day, we get to focus on all of that. This is a written explanation, but I've got a map on the next page. Generally, we're going to go out onto Arkansas, turn left at the front doors from Evergreen Library, walk along, walk through Evergreen Park as we take a left towards the splash pad and recreation center, and then keep going west past the elementary school, turn south on Salina, and then head back east on 25th Street, and you'll reach back to Evergreen. Here's a nice little map, plotted the route for you. You can obviously add your own adjustments to this as need be with time. I think there is some sort of dividing fence here, so you can't just cut through that necessarily, but I think it's roughly a mile in length if you do the full route.
And can we point out the story walk?
Yeah, because I didn't remember exactly where it was on it. Is it towards this first part, towards the park, right?
Yeah, you just go this sidewalk and it'll take you around the playground, the older playground, and then it'll walk you to the
Yeah. The library has set up some story walks, and this is one of them.
And what's the name of the park across the street that we're gonna be at, just for future reference? Isn't
That one or
City Park?
this
Shell
one's
Park.
Shell? Yeah, I got it on there.
Yeah, Show Park. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I was just wanting to. What's your name? Yeah, there you go. Shell Park. Yes, thanks.
All right, I'll leave this up here for a minute, but yeah, if you're interested, walk and talk. I think I'll probably hang out here for a couple minutes in case people have questions before I start walking, but otherwise,
We'll be
at your own
later, and
pace.
I'll pick up the